Good evening, Lake Orion. Welcome to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina, BT and also History Now host as well. And I'm here with Coach Blackstock.
Hey,
Coach,
Anthony,
how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Before we want to talk about this season, I want to talk about last season a little bit.
Sure.
Lake Orion went 3-6, but the record was deceptive. It was one of the toughest schedules in the state where you were playing multiple teams in the top 25. Could you talk about last season a little bit?
Yeah, I think you summed it up really well. 3-6 is not something that any of us are really happy about. But I was really proud of how our kids, especially the seniors, continued to battle and they played their hearts out no matter what the situation was. And I thought just did a really nice job of, sticking together and staying together as a team. When you're at some points in the season when the record was not good, you start to worry about falling apart a little bit and becoming selfish. And I thought the guys really did stick together and, made us proud with their effort on the field.
They made mention some of the teams that you guys were playing were in the top 25 in the state. Chippewa Valley, you guys, they were a district championship team. We're right in there with them.
Yeah, and they're a few seconds from being in the Final Four.
I agree.
With a really close game in the regional final.
Mm-hmm. Rochester Adams, a top 10 team in the state. Really, really surprised team, but really good team, really experienced team.
Yeah, honestly, I thought one of the toughest teams we had played all year. I know some other teams, made a longer run in the playoffs, but physically they were probably one of the toughest we had played.
West Bloomfield, they were a state finalist. We played right there with them too.
Yeah, they got out ahead of us pretty quickly. They started really fast, and I felt like the third quarter we kind of started to come back. Gained some confidence, made some plays, and started to give them, everything they could handle. And then they kind of pulled away there in the fourth quarter again.
Southfield, that was our pink out game last year. It was a very competitive game. Southfield was a few times in the top 25.
Another game that really probably could have gone either way, down to the wire. And it's never fun to lose, but it was an exciting game from beginning to end. I don't think I've ever seen a game that has had more 2-point conversions in it.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of 2-point conversions in that contest, both sides.
Both sides.
Bloomfield Hills, really good team that year. That was another close game.
Yeah.
Came back.
Yeah. Again, a couple miscues here and there changes that game. But hats off to them. They had a really talented group, especially that quarterback and wide receiver that they had. Those two guys were just special.
Clarkston, state champions. We ended up going toe-to-toe with them, and it was a really good. We went to the final possession.
Yeah, I think it's kind of what you always expect from a Lake Orion Clarkson game. Always going to be hard fought and played with great effort on both sides. And again, in those kinds of games, it comes down to one or two big plays here and there, and that was our Achilles heel.
We also had 3 very, very good wins. Troy Athens at Athens.
Yep.
It was a very good, especially that first half against Athens. That was very, very impressive. Yep. Oxford. Anytime you can win back the 00 trophy, it's always a great feeling. I remember one of those. I remember that game very, very well, where the guys were going. The celebration. You did the hip hip hooray.
Sure.
And then probably the best game of the season was week 9 against Seaholm. That stretch from week 7 to week 9, and I'll get to that in a second. The win against Seaholm was probably the best game of the season. It was 45-7. It was Dylan Frank had an unbelievable game. The offensive line played great. The defense held them to a couple of times. There was they were in the goal line and the break, but you're the bend, but you don't break.
Yeah, we things really kind of came together that game. It was, I think, what we all thought we were going to be the entire season. with offense and defense really clicking and special teams playing well. Our guys were coming up with big plays. You brought up, 2 times down in the red zone. Chris Cade had an interception. Tyler Vestran had an interception, which both of those were huge plays. Dylan ran wild. Our offensive line blocked really well. And it was a game where we put everything together and just seemed to be really in tuned and really focused.
From week 7 to week 9 was arguably the best 3 weeks of the season for this group.
Yeah,
it seemed like everything
if we pull
came
off
together.
that Clarkson game, that's a pretty good end of the season. But I think we were playing some pretty good football at that time. We just kind of got behind the 8 ball early in the season with a tough schedule and not playing real well to boot. With it, it's not a good combination.
Was last season a learning curve for not just the players but for the coaches as well? Because we had a lot of under Coach Bell. A lot of you guys were coaching with Coach Bell, and there was a lot of changes that a lot of coaches had to learn last year. Was it a learning season?
Yeah, I think it really was. We went through a good amount of change. Anytime a coach like Coach Bell steps down, who's won 75% of his games over his career, that's a tough void to fill in itself. And then, we had Brad Fisher move over to coordinate the offense from the defense. That was, a bit new and a change. And Brad Thomas did a really nice job coming in and coordinating the defense, but that was a little bit of change for him, stepping into the coordinator role. And, I stepping into the head coaching role. I was learning every day. And making my fair share of mistakes going along, but that's how you learn, I think our staff is in a much better situation this year with having last year and having the off season now, where those guys have really put in a lot of time. The coaching staff has this off season.
I noticed Coach E's coaching tight ends.
Yep, Coach E's coaching our tight ends. Yep.
And that was it felt very like, isn't Coach E defense? Is like, then he's coaching offense now.
Sure.
So
and Coach E's kind of done a little bit of both. He's always kind of been our tight end when we were using some tight ends, and we wanted to put more of a focus on using tight ends since last year, and felt that we needed to have a guy really devoted to that group because it's such a unique position. Sometimes they're with the skill guys in the passing game, sometimes they're down with the offensive linemen, and we really needed somebody to come in and focus on those guys.
I wanted to ask a question because of some of the parents were asking me, some of the fans were also asking me this. This was kind of it's a playoff question. And there was a couple of teams that were in lower divisions that had similar enrollments to Lake Orion make the playoffs. Does seeing a team that is in a weaker division get in, does that frustrate you at times, or does that frustrate any of the coaches at times? Because it was a question that they were asked.
It's a tough question, I've thought about it a lot, and I think it really just kind of depends on the moment. There's times that, you get a little frustrated that, your staff and your kids are working hard and doing the right things, but because of the schedule, it just being as tough as it was, that we didn't get in the playoffs. Where, if we play, a different schedule, we probably, I'm pretty sure we win some more games and get that 6th win and get into the playoffs. But yet the other side of it is, being a Lake Orion alumni and a part of the community, that we want to play the best. And we don't want the easy road in. So I guess if I had to choose playing a lower division just to make the playoffs or play in the upper division, every day we're going to play in the upper division. I feel like you really, that's what football is about, testing yourself, as an individual, as a team, and as a program. And we take a lot of pride in the tough schedule that we play, and we wouldn't want it any other way. Those guys, even though that 3-6, we're not super happy about it, they know they played some of the best teams in the state, and at times we went toe-to-toe with them and played well. And those mistakes become a little more glaring when you play those top teams. But no, I like where we're at, and I want us to stay there, and I know that's where we're going to stay.
I want to talk about the off season. What work have you seen from the off season? There's been I've noticed there's an organization that they've been doing a lot of.
Yeah, last year when people kept asking me, what's happened to Lake Orion football, and I kept using the analogy of buying a house, and you go in and you make some changes to the house and you update it, and I think that's the one area that we've made a lot of change this year was our off season, in terms of really encouraging kids to get involved in playing other sports, because number one, that's what we want them to do, play the other sports at Lake Orion High School, to compete. And play for their school, and if they weren't doing that, get involved in some of the organizations with the winter 7-on-7, the winter offense and defensive lineman camps that are run around the state, so they get more opportunity to compete since they weren't competing in another sport, and to develop those football skills. The other area of the off season was, we decided to bring in some trainers from Next Level, which is out of Powerhouse here in Lake Orion. And they really helped design and run our off-season strength and conditioning program. Coach Booker and Coach Jennings still continue to run the powerlifting program all winter long. But then when spring comes, both of those guys are coaching baseball for our baseball team. So we brought the trainers in from Next Level during the spring and continued with them during the summer. And they really changed how we've been training, and we hope that that'll pay off.
How have the 7-on-7s been? How have the off? You've got a camp coming. You got camp.
Yeah, in the winter, our off-season participation in the 7-on-7 stuff in the winter, I think it doubled or almost tripled in numbers, which was good. I think we had about 16 kids playing, and then we had various other kids going to the lineman stuff. Our 7-on-7 stuff that we can do after June 1st, it went well. There was a lot of learning involved. 7-on-7 is kind of that necessary evil of, it's a little bit unrealistic. There's no rush for the quarterback. There's no true referees out there, so sometimes guys get away with a little bit more holding and a little bit more physical play. But it's necessary in terms of installing our passing game and working on our pass defense. And I liked what I saw out of our kids. They competed.
That's awesome. I want to talk about the returning players, also the new additions. I want to talk about the returning players first. You return quite a bit of players.
Yeah, we do. It's kind of how high school football goes, where it feels like you lose a lot on the one side of the ball, probably defensively. We've lost a number of guys to graduation, but offensively, we've got a number of guys back who went through those wars last year and hopefully have learned and can take what they've learned and help the new guys coming along. Yeah.
You also got a lot of new additions as well. Last year in junior varsity, the junior varsity football team went 7-2 last year.
Yeah, Coach Booker and his JV staff did a great job with those sophomores who are now our juniors, and 7-2 was a great record for them.
Oh yes. They had some good wins, too. They went into West Bloomfield and won at West Bloomfield.
Yep.
They played them twice.
Yep.
They beat Oxford and Clarkston pretty good.
Yep.
It was some good.
They played some good football. And, you talk about new guys. I think that, the sophomores bring a good amount of athletes, at the skill positions, which will be good for us. And they've got some linemen that are really doing well, but we're excited to have those guys.
I want to talk about the JV and the freshman programs. We made mention that there were some different coaches coaching in the JV level and also the freshman level. Can you talk to me about both the JV and the freshman programs from what you've seen?
Yeah, so the freshman program, head coach Dan Dabrowski, who is a media specialist at Stadium Drive Elementary, works in the district. We've got most of the staff back. We did bring in Darren Eaton, who played wide receiver at Michigan State while he was in college. He's going to coach the freshman wide receivers. And we're really lucky to bring Steve Dolinsky back, who was on the state championship team as a safety, and he's going to work with our freshman defensive backs there. On the JV staff, headed by Coach Booker, we're lucky that we've been able to bring Joel Malkasian back, who was a great wide receiver for us a few years ago, and he's going to coordinate the offense, and Coach Booker is going to coordinate the defense. And then at the varsity level, we brought in Troy Anderley, another former player who played safety for us. And in the mid-2000s. And
2006, when the school graduated with Troy, as you know.
Who was a really tough and smart player, and he's coaching our cornerbacks this year, and he's done a great job coming in this summer and really, taking the bull by the horns and coaching those guys up and making them better. And then we brought Brian Gannon in also as a varsity defensive line coach. Coach Gannon has been at Lapeer for a number of years, and he took last year off because of work and his kids playing some youth league football, and he wanted to get back into coaching, and he lives in Lake Orion, so we've met a few times and we're able to get things worked out. So we're excited about the new guys and the guys that have stayed on the staff.
That's awesome. You have any final thoughts on talking about the returning players, the new additions, coaching?
Just really excited. New year, kind of a fresh start. Use what we learned last year and build upon. And we keep telling our returning guys that need to learn from the seniors and how hard they played and how physical they played. But just really excited about our new coaches and our kids that have been working hard in the offseason.
That is awesome. We'll be right back to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV.
Breaker 19, Breaker 19. You got your ears on? Put the hammer down and come on out to Orion Township's 15th annual Big Rig Gig on August 3rd, beginning at 5 p.m. at Friendship Park. Load up the family and explore dozens of trucks, tractors, diggers, dozers, bucket trucks, backloaders, and emergency vehicles of all shapes and sizes. Come early, stay late, and don't forget the Kodak camera. For more information, visit OrionParks.com. Keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down, and I'm gone.
Welcome back to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. Coach, how you doing? I got Coach Blackstock here.
Doing great. Ready to
Wonderful.
go for the second segment.
Wonderful. That is awesome.
Kind of like the second half, right?
Yes, the second. Well, there's three. There's like three. So let's
We'll
go.
do some overtime.
Okay, yeah, we'll do some overtime. Let's go with that. Want to talk about the theme. What is the theme for this year's team?
We really try to focus on 4 core values: together, toughness, relentless effort, and other-centered leadership. And those are the 4 mainstays that we're really talking about. But over the winter and definitely in the spring, and now that we're in the summer, I think that if we had a theme, it's really become earn it. And really, I think we just kind of stumbled upon it. It really wasn't planned, but in our off-season workouts and talking with kids and the goals that they've set, I think earn it has just become the theme in terms of, if an individual wants to play more, they're not happy with their situation, well, you got to earn it. And if they want to start, then they've got to earn it. If as a team they want to be more successful, then they've got to earn it. And I think it just really fits in well with where we're at as a program right now. We want to play in big games and we want to do well. We've got to earn that opportunity. And I think it's a great message for our kids, not only in football, but in school and in life, across all their life. Of if they want something, you've got to go earn it.
That's a great lesson, not just in sports, but in life.
And that's what we're trying to teach them.
That's a good thing. That's a great thing. I like that theme. It's a good thing.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the schedule for this year. First, start off at the Big House against Lapeer. Then we have their first home game for the 00 Trophy against Oxford. Then we're at Adams. Then we host Troy Athens in the crossover game. I'll talk about that in a minute. At West Bloomfield, at Southfield Arts and Tech, homecoming against Bloomfield Hills, home for the Pink game, the annual Pink game against Clarkson, and then we're away at Monroe. Now, a couple things stand out to me. First question is, why Week 9 at Monroe?
Well, with the way the schedule worked out this year, they moved Troy Athens to the white division, and so it really opened up 3 non-conference games One of them being the crossover with Troy Athens. But then, we needed to find 2 non-conference games. And, really on kind of short notice, trying to find a Week 9 game. Monroe was looking for a game, and so Coach Bell reached out and contacted them, and they were interested in trying to put together a 2-year contract. So this year we'll be at Monroe, next year they'd be up here. And, we just thought it would be fun to get out of the area, get out of Oakland County, and go play in another stadium that our kids haven't been to. Our community hasn't been to. It is a bit of a road trip down there, but Monroe will always be tough. They'll be physical. We're anticipating that they're having a pretty good team this year themselves, so we're hoping that it kind of matches up in a nice little Week 9 game. So it's exciting to go down there. I think the only time Lake Orion has played them was in 1998.
The playoffs.
In one of the first playoff game, which was here. They came all the way up here to Lake Orion for that Friday night playoff game. So now we'll go down there the week before the playoffs.
That'll be a very, very fun, interesting experience.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's a team that we don't have much history with, and totally different league, and I think they're going to play really tough football, and it'll be fun to go down and see what we can do.
That will be certainly. It's going to be an adventure. That's it for sure.
Yep.
Want to talk about Lapeer at the Big House? How did Lake Orion get to go to the Big House?
Exciting that we get to play them, and even more exciting to play at the Big House, right? I think for years there's been talk ever since Lapeer combined schools and became of a similar size, a talk of trying to get a game with them. Be great for both communities, and communities with single high schools, and it just kind of worked out that they were looking for a game, and we were looking for a game both Week 1, and it was the right thing to do, to get our programs together, especially with how close we are and how similar we are. We have a really good relationship with them. For the last few years, we've done a lot of 7-on-7 with them in the summer, and the last couple of years we've scrimmaged them, in our preseason scrimmage. So we're familiar with each other, and it's exciting to have them on the schedule.
I'm looking forward to that one because it's as you said, we scrimmaged Lapeer.
Yep.
Another question: who are you guys now scrimmaging, replacing Lapeer in the scrimmage?
Yeah, so we'll be over at Brighton, at Brighton High School, and scrimmage Brighton, and I believe also Pinckney will be there, and Linden will also be there. So
3 interesting teams.
Yeah, so kind of back to the old, four-way scrimmage type
Back
thing.
in the day, it was Lake Orion, Oxford, Holt, and Howell.
And Howell, yep.
I remember those days very, very well.
Yeah, those long bus rides up to Holt, right?
Yes, I remember those days very, very well. I want to talk about the other games that are on here. First home game on the new turf. I wanted to talk about the new turf and what's your take about the new turf?
Sure, it's exciting to be able to open up our first home game against those guys in the blue and gold.
Well, there's 2 of them, Oxford and Clarkson.
Yep. We get to play one of them on it for the first one and get to play and hopefully keep this thing around for a while. It's exciting because the turf was really in rough shape. It really had lasted its life, especially with all the use it gets from all the different events and all the different organizations that use it. Really, I don't want to say on a year-round basis because of the winter, but it's used a ton. So it's exciting to, have the new turf, which is going to be a much safer surface for everybody that's using it. And it looks great,
Oh, well, from what I've seen, it looks wonderful.
I think they're doing a really nice job.
Yes. Wanted to talk about Oxford. Oxford returns quite a bit.
They do.
What's your take on Oxford?
Whenever you play Oxford, you're going to get the same Oxford in terms of they're going to play hard, and it's not going to matter record or size. Coach Raleigh always has those guys playing hard, and they're going to be fundamental, and they're going to be really sound. And it's one of those games where you better buckle up that chin strap and have that mouth guard in and be ready to go for 4 full quarters, which, last year's game, I think, was a great example of it. the scoreboard might have started to look a little bit lopsided, with I think 52-35, but it never.
That was 2 years ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it never felt that way, That's just always a really hard-fought game with those guys.
Adams on the road. That's always, obviously last year was a little bit
Always a
tough.
fun place to go play, and they'll be opening a new
Yeah,
new
they're
facility.
opening their new turf.
Yep, new facility as well, and always a great challenge to play against those guys, and just a fun place to play because of their community support.
Yep.
And how successful Coach Petrito has been with their program.
Troy Athens, hosting them after 2 years going over there.
Yeah, it feels like we're always down there.
It feels
at Troy
like it.
Athens,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
So it'll be nice to play them here, and they've got a new head coach, Coach Keenest.
Billy Keenest.
Who will do a great
Oxford
job.
alum, 06 alum.
Yeah, who will do a great job there, and expect a really good game out of them. I feel like they're going to really be on the upswing and a team to watch.
On the road for 2, at West Bloomfield,
Yep.
and then at Southfield.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
Going to be two good games there. Two really talented teams, and we've got to play well when we go down to both of those places.
Both very athletic, too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that they're easy places to play.
No.
They're two of the harder places to go into and get a win, but we'll look forward to it.
Homecoming, Bloomfield Hills.
Sure.
They lost a lot from last year, but they still very, very formidable.
Yeah, their coaching staff does a great job. I think a lot of the other coaching staffs get a lot of praise and recognition, and maybe the Bloomfield Hills staff doesn't get as much as they should. They do a great job with whatever they have. They've thrown the ball all over the place the last couple of years because of the kids they've had, but in years past, seen them do a really nice job of formationing people and taking advantage of different formations and running the ball really successful. So they've got a great staff.
Clarkston, the pink game. Also, it's at home.
Another one of those blue and gold games, right?
Uh-huh.
And it'll be nice to be at home, and you always look forward to that one. Yep.
Monroe, your take on?
Like I said earlier, I think going to be big, going to be physical. Going to be a physical game. Playing down there on, I believe they're a grass surface,
Yes.
which I'm excited about, and I think
Brings back memories.
yeah,
doesn't it?
it's kind of like back to football, and I think it's worked out well. We've been on the grass for all of our camps because of the installation of the new turf, so that should not be an issue for us at all, and we'll practice back there on the grass that week and be ready to go, and maybe be a little bit muddy and play some old-time football.
Oh, yes. I remember those. Those games with Romeo were quite an experience.
Yep.
I want to talk about Lapeer. Lapeer returns a very good quarterback.
Yep.
Returns a very good running back. They're a very good team.
Yep.
They compete in the Saginaw Valley. They compete against Carmen Ainsworth. Going to now compete with Grand Blanc.
Yep.
Compete with Davison. Really good overall program over at Lapeer.
Yeah, they're tough kids. They really are. They really blue collar mentality and work ethic. They've got a kid that's a defensive end, defensive tackle that also plays tight end. Big kid that's drawn a lot of interest from colleges. Probably going to be an Ivy League kid from what it sounds like because of his grades, and it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be. It's a really, really tough schedule.
Yeah.
It looks like a really, really tough schedule.
Yep.
It's a very you're going to have to earn it in this league.
Yep.
I want to talk about the OA Red, particularly the parity of the OA Red, because we play Oxford, we play Adams, we play Troy Athens, West Bloomfield, Southfield, Bloomfield Hills, and Clarkston. All of them in the past have either are in the OA Red or have been in the OA Red. So I want to talk about the familiarity of playing those opponents and what's your take about playing all of them.
Yeah, having played those guys for a number of years now, there's really not a lot of surprises of what they're going to do, and we're not going to surprise them a lot with what we do either. It really comes down to who prepares their team and who executes that night. The best with the least amount of mistakes. And that's something that we're really focused on this year is ball security and not, having what we call self-inflicted wounds in terms of penalties before the ball is snapped and penalties after the ball is snapped. But yeah, those guys in the league, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get athletic teams that are well coached and will take advantage of weaknesses that they see throughout the week in film, and they'll do a great job of making adjustments. So every week is a battle in the OAA Red, and it hasn't always been like that. This will be my 21st year here in Lake Orion, only second as head coach, but was here 19 years as an assistant. There were times you could look at the schedule and say, hey, we've got 4 really tough games that we don't know which way are going to go, and 5 of them that we got a really good feeling that we're going to win the game. And now you need to show up every week and play your best, which is exciting, and that's what high school football should be, having to bring your best every week.
You made mention last year that it was the entire league as a whole has improved.
Yeah.
And the coaching staffs have improved.
Absolutely.
Is that a testament to the coaching staff, or is it a testament to the familiarity of the league and everything?
Well, I think it's a testament to guys like John Harrington, Tony Petrito, Kurt Richardson, and Chris Bell. For years it was kind of looked at those were the 4.
The Big Four.
The Big Four, and everybody called them the Big Four.
Yep.
And I think a lot of other schools were doing a really good job, but I think they started really studying what those 4 did, and really started to try to emulate those 4, even though those 4 are all a little bit different.
Yep.
And I think those 4 really raised the level of play. And then you had new coaches come in, like Coach Bellamy at West Bloomfield, and those guys who brought their own talents and now have raised the level. And at Southfield A&T, their coaching staff has raised the level of play in this league. And then you throw in a Coach Raleigh from Oxford and Dan Loria from Bloomfield Hills. It's an outstanding group of coaches, that I got a little bit of a lesson in last year, watching those guys.
And then also not just the Red as a whole, but the league as a whole. You've got Harrington, you got Coach Carter at Oak Park. They do a fantastic job.
Yeah, from top to bottom, whether it's the red, the white, or the blue. I mean, there's great football in the OAA. There really is.
Quality football.
Yeah, at all three levels.
Any final thoughts on the schedule?
Excited about it. I think, like you said, it is challenging. We wouldn't want it any other way. It wouldn't be any fun to sit around and say, hey, this is the easiest schedule we've ever had. It's always more fun to have a challenging schedule and, set your sights high. But I like how the schedule worked itself out in terms of, the home and away. Yeah, we've got a couple away on the road, 2 in a row there. But I like how it worked out this year.
Also having to earn every game.
Yeah.
It fits well with the theme of earn it.
Yeah, and I think it's nice how things are kind of spread out, in terms of the different styles of play that we'll have to play against.
That's awesome. We'll be right back with the Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV.
Dragon on the Lake returns to Lake Orion in August with numerous events scheduled over a 4-day period. Started in 2009 to celebrate the Orion Arts Center's 30th anniversary, the annual event offers fun for the whole family. Things kick off on Thursday, August 23rd, with the Chamber of Commerce Thirsty Thursday and Chili Cook-Off at 4:30 p.m., and 105.1 The Bounce gets the party started with old school jams at 7:30 p.m. in the Dragon Pub. On Friday, visitors can enjoy a craft beer and wine tasting at 6 p.m., and the band Rockstar goes on stage at 8:30 p.m. An annual tradition continues at sunset as decorated boats travel around Lake Orion during the Lighted Boat Parade. Saturday morning kicks off with a brand new event. The Dragon on the Run 5K begins at 9 a.m. at the corner of Anderson and Front Street, with participants passing through downtown Lake Orion onto beautiful Pink Creek Trail. Enjoy music in the Dragon Pub all day Saturday, culminating with a performance by the always popular Square Pegs at 8:30 p.m. Don't miss the opening ceremony for the Dragon Boat races on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. in Greens Park. Throughout the day, teams will be competing for the title of 2018 Dragon Boat Race Champion. There's also a chalk art challenge, kids zone, and a whole lot more for the entire family to enjoy. For more information, visit dragononthelake.com or follow Dragon on the Lake on Facebook.
Welcome back to Lake Orion Football Preview Show on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina, and I got Coach Blackstock with me. Coach, how you doing?
It's great.
Wonderful.
Ready for overtime.
Oh, yes. We're in overtime, ladies and gentlemen. We already had the first half, and we already had the second half. So now we're in overtime. I want to talk about the alumni and how much they support the football program. What's your take about the alumni and how much they support the program?
Yeah, you know, the alumni here are fantastic and play a huge role in the success of the program. You know, a lot of our community are alumni. You know, Lake Orion's just a really special place. And I think it was never more evident than last year. You know, it's easy to support, you know, the team or the program when you're making a playoff run and winning the conference championship and making your way to Ford Field and then get down to Ford Field. Our support has been outstanding when we've been there. But, you know, last year being 3-6, our support was still, it never wavered. It still was a great support from our alumni and from our community. You know, the stands were packed. You know, our band was there and, you know, giving us energy, and our cheerleaders and our student body. You know, I don't want to just focus on alumni, but even our student body showed up, you know, even at the end of the season. And
they were at road games.
At road games and engaged, and we had members of the band going on road games, you know, a little pep band going. And that support is appreciated, you know, and I think that support really stems, getting back to your question, to the alumni, you know, of the current students in the current community, seeing, you know, how much support the alumni give and continue to give, you know. So it's a special place.
I want to talk about the support staff. I want to start with Coach Bell.
Yeah, you know, it's a pretty good feeling when you've got that guy in your corner and always there to help and give some advice, or be able to go and knock on the door and say, hey, what do you think of this situation? Or, you know, what should I be thinking down the road? You know, with his experience and his professionalism, it's outstanding to have that guy to be able to go to. The support staff, in terms of, you know, the people that do so much behind the scenes for us, and I'm sure you might even touch on it a little bit. You know, I consider the support staff, Jan Allard in the athletic department, the secretary there, our high school administration, you know, our principal, Mr. Holly, and our assistant principals are so supportive of our players, our kids, our coaches. Our central office staff is really been a support to us, and our athletic training staff of Chelsea and Megan, who really take care of our kids and do a great job. You know, our pep club is as good as they come. I think you'd be hard pressed to find an organization within a high school, a booster club, that supports a team like ours does. You know, Jeff Powell has taken over kind of as our equipment and game day operations guy. We had Kevin Mishak for years, who's still around a little bit, and hopefully we'll still see him on the sideline Friday nights. But Jeff has taken it to another level also in terms of helping us with equipment and supporting the staff. So there's just a lot of people, and I know I'll forget people, not forget them, but miss them, that we couldn't run the program that we do without the support of the alumni that come back and help, and even just guys writing, you know, small emails and notes last year, you know, of, hey, keep your head up, keep the guys going, and keep playing hard, you know.
Yes, many of them are returning to coaching, as we may mention in the first segment.
Yeah, which I think we have a really nice mix of guys that played for us, so they really, you know, have a passion for Lake Orion football and understand the way that, you know, we as coaches and coordinators would like to have things done. But then we also have a nice mix of guys that are from outside of Lake Orion, and you kind of blend those together, and that's when you get a really good staff.
Yes. We touch on it, the pep club, and what things do they do?
Oh my gosh, they do they do so much. You know, number one, they help us fundraise, because a lot of what money that is spent in the football program comes from that fundraising, you know, in the off season. Trying to give coaches a little bit of money, that volunteer their time, and it's not a lot, but trying to give those guys some money to make it worthwhile to come out and help. Getting the kids all the food that we do, in terms of feeding them before games and after games. That money has to come from fundraising. The extra stuff they do of taking the nameplates off the jerseys and then re-sewing them back on, which a lot of people don't think about. Well, that's a lot of the parents volunteering time to do that. The equipment nights that we have, using parents to help hand out equipment and collect it back in at the end of the season. The marauding, homecoming week, our players' houses get, decorated with, the crepe paper and signs, and
the cars get decorated too.
And cars get decorated, and it just, that kind of stuff doesn't happen without the parent group that we have, that we call the PEP Club. Parents encouraging positive participation.
I remember the fundraisers. Like, there's several fundraisers throughout the winter, the spring, and the summer.
Yeah.
So they do a fantastic job.
Yeah, they do. The time they put in is invaluable. And I think even as an assistant coach, I knew what was going on, but I didn't really have an idea of how much time people were putting in. And now as a head coach, it's unbelievable, and we're so thankful for the people that do.
I want to talk about the pink game. It's for you talk about the pink game and what it means to our community.
Yeah, it's an important game, and I'm excited that we're going to do it with Clarkston. There's been talk for years of trying to partner with Clarkston and make a really good rivalry into something that can also really help a lot of people. And we think by partnering our rivalry together can really increase the amount of funds that can be raised, which in the end help people in both communities. I think it's a great message for our kids. Last year we lost to Southfield A&T in a heartbreaker and a really hard-fought battle. But it was interesting to be able to go over to the team after the end of the game and say, hey, I know how hard this was and how bad you feel about losing, but let's remember that this is a game, and the people that donated and purchased a jersey and put their name or their family member's name on the back of your jersey, that's real loss and that's real hurt. Tomorrow, Saturday morning, we're all going to wake up from this football game, and sure, it might sting a little bit, but it doesn't hurt like the hurt of people who've lost a family member to cancer. So I think it's a really good message for our kids that yes, football is important, but it's also not life or death, and that we can use football as a tool to help raise funds for fighting cancer and honoring and remembering loved ones.
Yes. I want to talk about, that whole, with the pink game, the whole with cancer and helping research and donate. it goes for a great cause.
And we've been on both sides of it, of winning that game and losing that game. And I think that, at the end of it, whether you win or you lose, it really is a good reminder of what's truly important in life, and family and friends and the coming together. And I think it'll be really a great event of two rivals that love to go at it on the field against each other, and we're going to continue to do that, but also being able to come together for something much bigger than a high school football game.
I agree. I want to talk about the Jeff Heath camp and how much that means to the community.
Yeah, it's a great event, and we changed things up a little bit this year. We had 120 kids.
Wow.
3rd through 8th grade. It was the biggest Jeff Heath camp that we've had, and it was really fun. We had our seniors come out and work the camp and coach stations, and Jeff's message has always been be a football player, because that's what Jeff was. Jeff, it didn't matter what position Jeff played, and prime example is this year during the game when their kicker gets hurt. Jeff ends up doing extra points and kickoffs.
Didn't that bring back memories?
Just because he's a football player. He's an athlete. So we wanted to teach every kid, 3rd through 8th grade, a little bit about every position. Every kid learned how to throw. Every kid learned how to be a center. Every kid learned how to double team block. Every kid learned how to run pass routes. Every kid learned how to backpedal. Jeff was teaching the backpedaling and man-to-man coverage station. We had a couple alumni Taylor McCarty and Parker Blust come out and teach every kid how to punt and every kid how to kick. So it was a great two-a-day event, and we had a lot of fun. And it was great having Jeff back. Anytime Jeff comes back, it's special. The message he shares with our high school kids or our youth age kids is just always a great message.
And, I remember when guys would come back when I was in high school and the impact it had on me. So, I feel like it's just the least I could do with, all that this community has done for me when I was growing up.
I want to talk about the program building from the youth level on up to the middle school program. What's your take about the importance of building up from the youth league to the middle school?
Yeah, it's really important. Any successful high school program really has a feeder system that builds from the bottom up, and trying to align those programs is important, and something that we've always worked on, and we're going to continue to work on and try to build that relationship even more. There isn't much of a relationship between the flag football and Lake Orion, but I think that's even an important aspect of kids learning, how to throw and catch and carry the ball, and getting in good position to grab flags. I think that's a valuable piece. And then those kids that move into the youth tackle program, and then into the middle school. I'm really excited about the middle schools this year. Every one of our middle school teams has at least one teacher coaching that team that teaches in the building, which is important. So we're excited about the development of football through Lake Orion.
What is your expectations for Lake Orion football?
The expectations are the same every year. We expect to be right there in the hunt, playing for an OAA Red championship. And this year, in March, we had the kids set some goals. And Coach Thomas, our defensive coordinator, and I, we kind of just sat back and kind of gave them a framework and some thoughts, but we really wanted them to come up with the goals so that they earned it, and they came up with some really good goals, and we expect to push them to get to those goals. I'll never predict wins and losses. My wife always teases me that, the year we won the state championship, I don't really remember it. She says that one day I came home during two-a-days and said, gosh, if we can just win 6 games this year, that'll be a really good year and get into the playoffs. And we ended up having a fantastic year. So I won't predict wins and losses, but the expectation at Lake Orion doesn't change. To be in the hunt for the OAA Red, make the playoffs, and see what kind of run you can go on from there. You win the OAA Red, and you're going to make the playoffs, and you're going to have a good run. So I guess that's kind of where our expectation is right now.
Thank you very, very much, Coach Blackstock.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy it.
Always a pleasure having you on.
Same here.
That will do it for this episode of the Lake Orion Football Preview Show. I encourage you to come out and support the Lake Orion Dragons this year on this incredible run on the new turf. Come out, support your Dragons. If you can't, watch it on Orion ON TV, and hope to see you at a football game. Take care. Have a great evening.